Dee, I thought this was supposed to be like a palate cleanser podcast.
I mean, there's no murders yet.
No, there's just like neo-Nazis, horrible racists, and people trying to overthrow the government.
It's kind of like the news at the moment. There's no incest. There's no abuse. You brought us Black Dahlia, and I was just trying to, like, that lowered our bar of what light is, Jeff. And that's why we're doing a recap of White Hot Hate on this episode of So Much Crime.
So little time.
You know, Jeff, sometimes all of this true crime can really irk me. It can really get into my soul and to my head. This morning, I was on a train at, 7 a.m. listening to this podcast, and I thought, wow, what a way to wake my brain up in the morning. If only there was a way to, dip my toe into true crime, but without going full hog into the depths of depraved beings. And then I thought, well, patreon.com/so much crime, so little time, because there I'd get lots of outtakes, some more time machine clips, some of the kind of funnier, lighter aspects of true crime, but also sign up to the right package and you get a chance to speak to us. We love speaking to the listeners, don't we, Jeff?
I mean, I like them more than I like you, I think.
Low bar. And also what we've included in our new levels is we've got exclusive swag. We've got t-shirts, we've got caps from our show that we're ready to send out to our Patreon members. That's patreon.com/so much crime, so little time. Thank you so much for helping to support this teeny tiny show. We really appreciate it. Welcome to So Much Crime, So Little Time. I'm Dee.
And I'm Jeff. And before we start, just a quick warning.
Oh, such a big warning, Jeff. Go on.
This episode is going to have a lot of things. It's going to have many things, including spoilers for White Hot Hate. We're going to discuss.
It's going to have white people. It's going to have people who are hot and bothered, and it's going to have so much hate.
Yep. We're going to discuss the whole series here in this episode.
Yeah, and if you haven't listened yet, check out our preview episode on this show. It's the one before this one in your feed. It'll go through the first episode and give you an insight into what this podcast is really about.
And we'll also put a link if you want to go deeper on this podcast, White Hot Hate. That'll be in our show notes. Dee, before we jump in, let's talk about what White Hot Hate is.
Yeah, absolutely. So this podcast came out in 2021. The host is Michelle Shephard, and there are 6 episodes in total, pretty short, each between 30 and 40 minutes long. But in the preview, as I said, we discussed episode 1. Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about episode 1 and where we are starting off the conversation today?
Sure. Yeah, we started in Winnipeg, Canada. We learned about this white supremacist group that was recruiting some new members. And then we met this guy, Ryan Thorpe. He is a journalist, and he got assigned to look into this group. And so he used a fake name, and he tried to join. He ended up meeting up with this guy named Patrick in a park. And we also learned about accelerationism. So this is basically these groups trying to stoke chaos and cause violence and really just bring down the government and society. So at the end of the episode, Ryan's paper runs an expose on this group. And we are left with this cliffhanger where someone who saw the story in the paper thinks they know who this Patrick guy really is. And so, yeah, that's where we left off. We listened to the whole rest of the series, 5 more episodes. I have some questions for you. I have some thoughts. I have feelings, all the things, the trifecta of reactions to a podcast like this.
I'd love to, before we jump into your questions, I have a question you kind of just touched on something that it's kind of related to. So I'd love to start with that, if that's okay.
Sure.
Now that we've heard the full podcast, do you think that episode 1 was a strong start, especially the idea of that cliffhanger at the end?
I think episode 1 promised something that the rest of the show did not deliver on.
Oh, Tell me more.
I think episode 1 was a very personal story about this journalist, Ryan. We opened with him running after having this meeting and trying to record his notes. By the end of it, and we talked about this in our preview, we were sort of wondering, okay, so he's going to find out who this Patrick guy is. What's that going to mean for Ryan? Is he going to be in danger? Is Patrick going to, is this group that now that they've been exposed in this newspaper story going to come after him? And that wasn't really what this podcast was about.
Well,
what did you think?
Kind of disagree with that, because that's kind of what the whole podcast was about. It teed up the entire story. It started off fully on Ryan infiltrating it, because that's what caused everything else that we hear about, more or less, other than some of the context we get from certain episodes. But at the end, when we hear about the sentencing, it comes full circle, because you hear about Patrick's family, about the anger that they feel towards Ryan,
sure,
about their disdain, and if I saw him, and I know lots of people agree with me, all of that comes back around. So nothing dramatic, I suppose, happens to Ryan, but what does happen is this story that he thought was going to be oh, I go in, okay, I haven't done this before, and he goes in, does this whole thing, ends up having such a huge impact. I feel like it did come back around. And I don't know Winnipeg. I presume it's quite small. And I presume if someone knows him, and if people who are in this kind of organization or have this mindset know him, he must be uneasy, bopping around Winnipeg.
So Winnipeg has fewer than 1 million people. So yeah, it's relatively small. But here's what I don't know. Does Ryan have the date of Patrick's possible release circled on his calendar? Has Ryan taken any preventative measures to protect himself from either Patrick's family or this hate group? What has Ryan done since then on investigating extremist groups? This happened several years ago. None of that was in the podcast. I think my point is, I feel like this podcast, I thought it was going to be about this journalist who infiltrated this group, did an expose on them, and kind of what happened to him. It ended up being about Patrick, really, primarily, that guy, which I thought you were going to dislike, because it's kind of one of those podcasts that focuses more on the villain than the hero or the victim. Is that not how you felt about it?
No, because I think they focused very much on the victim. I don't think they spoke about Patrick a huge amount, or about Ryan a huge amount, the journalist Ryan, a huge amount.
Yeah.
But he underpinned everything that we heard. The whole setup was that was the entire premise of it. It went from start to finish. That was the common thread running through it all. And we hear about the villain, but we're not hearing the nice side of it. It's not you remember that podcast that I can't remember the title of, that was real long, about the Shermans. Honey Sherman. We'll talk about Honey, because,
Barry and Honey Sherman.
So
yeah.
What I hated there was it was very focused on one. It wasn't focused on the other. And it was all focusing on how nice people are. It's the same in a lot of other podcasts we've covered. I don't like when, I think you have to have a rounded story. But if they were oh, well, this person was so lovely this entire time, and we cannot believe that they did this. That's not what happened here. We heard the kind of switch. We heard how he was in college. We heard how it obviously switched at some point, maybe after he was enlisted. And I don't know, I felt like it was telling the story of how are so many people ending up like this?
Yeah, I guess I
felt that story was told, and it was broader, because it's not focused in on this one journalist and him being scared of these neo-Nazis that he's outed. It's the impact of his story is much broader than that.
Let me ask you a different question. How much of this
I feel that's what people say when they don't like the answer someone gave to the first question. Let me ask you in a different way.
No, well, you asked me a question, and I want to explore this from a different angle. Same topic, different angle.
Okay.
Did you feel like as you were listening to this, and we heard from a lot of different people, a lot of people who were sort of connected in different ways to the central story here, how much of this was new information for you? Like, how much did you learn from this podcast?
I'm slightly confused. I don't know whether you're getting at the fact that it's like that these groups exist, that they like grab people in, like how they create this narrative with people. I don't know if that's what you mean by like, how much did I learn from it? What I learned, and I think Ryan the journalist, I'm going to keep saying Ryan the journalist just because there's a lot of names that get thrown around. And for anyone who's just listening to us and hasn't listened to the podcast, it might be helpful. Ryan the journalist, I think, said it was different hearing and knowing that all of these people and this thought, like these ideas, these groups existed. It was very different seeing it up front. It was very different. And it really opened his mind to that. And before going into this, did I know, oh yes, I've heard that there are groups around. Yes. I mean, 2021, this was produced in. Obviously, we have been here for the last 4 years. We have seen the news. We have seen this become more and more acceptable in society and kind of just ignored when it happens in a very, I think people have become, is complacent the right word to use here? Like they just are like, oh, this is just something that happens. Like this is just the way this side are speaking. This is all totally fine. And in some cases we're seeing it like done by leaders. So
it's been
we're
normalized.
seeing this message. There's the word. It's been so normalized. So yeah, obviously right now I know that exists, but did I know that they're putting posters up and getting people in to prepare, like in army-like fashions, for let's create chaos, let's topple governments, and then let's be the ones who are able to overtake? Did I know that? No.
Okay.
I think I'd prefer not to be honest. It's disgusting. Like, and I think I thought it was interesting the way it was laid out. It wasn't a huge, long podcast.
No, and I think, so I was thinking this towards the end of it. I thought that you and I would have different responses to this. Partially for that reason is because I thought more of this might be unfamiliar to you, whereas this is something that I feel like I have been more or less focused on learning about for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
This is, and I think I've told you this before, like, I mean, I met my wife at an anti-racism conference.
Oh, I never knew that.
Well, we didn't meet there, but that's the first picture of us together is at the podium at a conference on racism and anti-racism activism. So like, this is a world that I feel like I have inhabited for a long time. And I think that's why, like, I appreciated what this podcast was doing, but I was hoping for it to be a little bit more of a personal story about individuals rather than this more like zoomed out. Here's what these groups are. Here's how they recruit members. Here's how people get sucked into the ideology. So I was very fascinated by the individual stories that were spread throughout this. There were several of those that I thought were interesting, but I would have wanted more to go deeper into some of those. Like, for example, in episode 3, and then these people are throughout the rest of it, but I think in episode 3 we get introduced to this guy, Luke, and his dad, Tom Lane. These are the ones in Georgia. And we hear a lot from Tom talking about how his son was, like, he was sort of like happy his son made friends, even though they were white nationalists. And he didn't seem really to take it that seriously. He didn't seem that fazed by it. I mean, his son had a Nazi flag on his wall, and he's like, I'm not really sure what that was. Like, it's a Nazi flag. You know what a Nazi flag looks like. We all do. We all do.
Absolutely.
But but then we hear about them like slaughtering this goat and drinking its blood and this whole like just plain dumb things that some of these groups do. Dumb, like just idiotic things like that. And that was an interesting story to me.
It was very interesting. I'm going to butcher like the butcher's a funny word to use here when we're talking about the goat, but isn't that a specific religion or culture that does that, like each year on a specific date?
Yeah, I mean, there's part of my reaction.
I'm saying that I'm saying that for a reason. I'm saying that because I'm like, you guys are against other cultures and religions, but you keep taking from them. There was all of these like, oh, what we're trying to do is the blah, 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 and the blah. And I was just like, hold on, but you don't like these guys. Like even the idea of the base, I didn't know that Al-Qaeda meant the base.
Yeah.
And it was like, did you know that? And he's like, I'm like, did he know that?
So, and this is part of my problem. And this is, again, I'm bringing my own personal kind of biases and opinions to this, but I feel like that's what we do here. I find, aside from the flagrant racism and hate, I find these people to be so dumb and so not worth our time that to hear sort of these zoomed out stories about them, I find kind of intensely boring. Whereas, but when we get to like so this guy, this Roman Wolf guy, Ronaldo Nazaro, who's living in Russia, like there's interesting things about this guy's story for sure. How did this guy end up in Russia? Also, but at the same time, like I believe these people have a level of stupidity that I find just like what I'm trying to say. Another way of saying this is I am more interested in exploring how dangerous what they're doing really is. We got that, I think, in the very last episode where we heard about the teenager, Blaze, who was killed. But what I worried about was actually the point you made in the intro here is there's really not a lot of violence actually happening here. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of bluster. There's a lot of preparing. But they don't actually do much. But like that's the same problem we have with like January 6th. Like January 6th, people talk about how like, oh, it was just peaceful protesters. But no, people got murdered on January 6th.
Yeah.
Right? Like
yeah. You can't peacefully protest and then break into official buildings.
Right. Right.
And, like,
and there was I worry that
as you said, people were killed.
I worry that it minimizes the threat and it sort of almost like dehumanizes it in a way. I don't know. Like I get frustrated with this.
That's so interesting because I find that very interesting because for me, this humanized it because it wasn't, we're going to take a really sensationalist angle on this. It was, we are going to tell you the facts. We are going to show you how far reaching this is. You've got a guy from Germany. You've got a guy from Australia on the phone here that we hear from. We're going to show you the breadth of this. And then we are going to explain to you how basic it looks. Like this idea that they're targeting 11-year-old boys by being like, this is so fun. Come in and join. It's just a bit of fun. Let's do it. It's very similar to Witness in his own words, where we heard about the drug pushers coming in and being like, oh, come join us. You'll make some money. Look, we're all friends. Oh, are you on the outskirts of your peer group? Oh, we can be like a family. Like we can support you. And then bit by bit, they become just part of that. And that's how they get brought in. And like, so I think in a way, maybe the banality of it, like not going in, like not sensationalizing one story and trying to make this like the most dramatic thing, but actually saying like, these are the facts. People are going around, they're spewing this, oh, it's not that we want to put down other races. We just want to be able to speak about our own race because a lot of the time, white men don't have enough time to speak about their feelings. And sure, at 27, how could they be mature enough to know the difference between right and wrong? And other people should have compassion for them. And that's what we hear. We hear that.
Yeah,
we hear Patrick's mum at the end. I couldn't believe. I actually had to listen to it twice because I was like, wait a second. Her son took no accountability. Because at one point he said like, oh, I was trying to be a good friend. I need to choose my friends better. Okay, so it's not you, it's your friends.
Right.
Like none of this is you. So when you were saying that if you had a child with your girlfriend who happened to be black, that your child would be half human, that was your friend's doing? You're also an absolute idiot to be saying that to someone who you met an hour ago. But that's neither here nor there. Like that part of the idiot. I mean, he's obviously an idiot for many other reasons.
Sure.
But his mother then saying, her son, Patrick, was the victim. And she was kind of like, where's the empathy for him? And I'm like, where's the empathy for the people he's spewing hate against? And she's like, oh, he was steered wrong. Young men are not mature enough. He was paying his bills, but at 27, he just wasn't mature enough. I'm like, whose job is it to make a 27-year-old man mature enough?
And
it sure as hell isn't society's. It's his job to know at that point right from wrong. Or maybe his mother's. I don't like to blame the parents in these situations. I feel like, you're your own person at 27, but you know right from wrong.
But we're going to give his mother space.
She blames the journalist.
We're going to give Tom Lane space. Like, if we're going to give these people space to sort of shrug off the hate of their children, I also wonder, like, do they think the same things? Do they think the same ways? Was Tom Lane okay with a Nazi flag because he has one too?
Or he's just like, oh, like, it doesn't really mean anything. That's like 70 years ago. Like, that stuff doesn't actually matter now.
Yeah, he doesn't see it as dangerous.
Yeah. And this is the same thing with Kim and Patrick's mother. Like, the journalist, Ryan, the journalist, was the problem. But she had no compassion for Ryan.
No.
And then she was like, why doesn't he have compassion for my son? And then as Michelle, the host, is trying to like push on that, like, is it not his right? And Kim jumps in and says, a right to ruin people's lives? No, he doesn't have that right. And honestly, you listen to that, and I listened to it twice, and I was like, no wonder Patrick can't take any accountability if that's what he's been shown.
The same thing with Luke and Tom Lane. Like, the same thing is true of, I'm going to say Roman Wolf, because that's the name that, I don't know, Ronaldo, that guy. Like, he's like, he basically takes no responsibility for what his group does. He claims he's not a racist. He has this perpetual victim mindset, which is Jeff, so ironic that this is the same thing that they accuse people of color of having, that they accuse immigrants of having. Like, they look in a mirror.
They don't have the ability to self-reflect, though. He's a 51-year-old, I think he said at one point,
something like that,
who got drunk and messaged Michelle, the host, misogynistic and racist comments, and then was like, oh, sorry, I got drunk last night when I messaged that. Are you a teenager? This is not like your mate that you say something inappropriate to. This is like, this is someone who interviewed you. And then you have, like, I suppose what I felt like Kim, Patrick's mom, brought here and into this. And this is, I think, why I felt more strongly that this was, it's the circle of hate.
Sure.
It's how cyclical it is. Like, it comes from somewhere. And I'm not saying every person who's engaged in one of these groups has it at home. That's not what I'm saying, because I know that that's not accurate. But I'm saying, when you heard from her, and I got it, she's hurting as a parent. But it was when she turned it on Ryan, the journalist. She was like, he had no compassion for my son. I'm like, but you have no compassion for Ryan. And you're out there saying, like, if I see him, I'm from Winnipeg, I think she said. She said something about how she was like a born and bred Winnipeg. And I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, this is my turf, I think is the other thing.
Yeah,
I'm like,
something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, the Michelle Shephard didn't like lay out, like, she didn't connect it. She didn't say, like, well, we can see that, like, this is cyclical. We can see, like, maybe where he got it from. She doesn't lay out how there's no compassion here, there's no empathy, and there's no accountability. But she leaves that quote in. She leaves that section in. It speaks for itself, I think. It was the same with the Australian guy who was delighted that his 11-year-old daughter had already beaten up 2 black kids, I think it was.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And she's only 11 and, like, laughing about it. And I'm like, this is how it spreads. And it's only when you talk about it and when you can educate in school and kind of infiltrate that mind and realize there is another way. It's frickin' everywhere. You can have people joining college who are left, like very liberal left who end up on the right. And we have to be very cognizant that we have to talk that this is something that is out there. And I feel like that's what Blaze's mom was saying. We don't want to give them too much airtime, but we want to let people know that this is out there. And that's where it's the overarching, this is what it's there. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Be mindful of it. But it's not sensationalizing one story that kind of isolates people from listening to it.
Yeah, I guess I want to be clear. I think what this podcast is doing, it does well. There's a part of me that's just tired.
Oh.
Tired of this. I mean, to your last point, just about like journalists being targeted and flipping this around and saying like really the journalism, the education system, Harvard, like these places are the real problem because they're indoctrinating people with left-minded thinking, critical race theory, and affirmative action, and these are really the things that are poisoning society. And yeah, that white men are really being victimized. Like that mentality, I am just so fucking tired of. Like I just want it to go away. And I know that's like, I'm speaking from a point of privilege. As a white man, I can just be tired of it. But also like, I have been thinking about this for a quarter century of work. And I know people spend their whole lives on this. I'm just tired. It's exhausting and it's draining. And particularly when it's like and I don't normally make a reference to this, but to the thing that you brought up in the Patreon bit in the beginning, there's times where I get up in the morning and I pop my headphones in to go for a run or to whatever. And I think I can't. Sometimes depending on what we're listening to, I can't start my day with this. And this was one of those podcasts of like, I can't start my day with this. Like, it's the reason I stopped listening to The Daily. It's the reason like I stopped listening to the NPR Politics podcast.
It's so interesting that you said that, because this morning when I listened on the train, what the thought that went through my head is, I find this really draining to listen to. And I was like, it's giving me, a month or so ago when I started getting into this habit of listening to The Daily every single day, and it just became too much. And I know, again, I'm speaking from a place of privilege, that I was like, I can't do this. This isn't good for my mental health to realize how fucked up things are. Like, not to realize, because I realize that, to remind myself daily of it. I want to, and this is maybe a great point to give a shout out to a podcast like ours, actually a Canadian podcast called Bill and Frank's Guilt-Free Pleasures. That if I've brought it up, it was a long time ago, but these are a couple of guys, I think they're both teachers in Canada, and they do this podcast where they talk about guilty pleasure songs, pop songs, and they spend a whole episode dissecting them. They know a lot about music. I brought that up because I have drifted over these last couple of years from all the news podcasts that I listen to, because it's everywhere. It's everywhere, and you have to take care of yourself. And there's nothing you can do about it, and you don't even think that it's going to get better.
Yeah, maybe a little.
Yeah. And this is what this was reminding me of, but from a podcast point of view, I thought it was a really well formatted podcast. I thought it was the host did a great job. I thought the production team did a great job of formatting it. It was enough context for, and yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm coming in because I have so little of it. I'm not drained from it.
There were a couple of references.
I haven't had 25 years of,
I say that I've been on the front lines. I have not been on the front lines. I have been to some events and I've done some things, but I'm not a hardcore activist. I'm not Antifa. I respect what they do. I don't appreciate how they're villainized when the name of their organization is anti-fascist. Are we not all anti-fascist? When did fascism become something we were okay with? When did being against fascism become a problem? Did I miss that?
No, I think you saw it. I think it was just hard to see. It's very hard to see.
And I appreciated how this podcast, so I want to say some things I liked about this podcast. One of the things I liked about this podcast was how it circled back to sort of the origins of some of this ideology and went back to the Oklahoma City bombing, which we've talked about before, as well as 9/11, and how like the Oklahoma City bombing in the 90s was sort of a pivotal moment like for homegrown terrorism and domestic US-based white hate groups. And then how 9/11 was sort of another inflection point of sort of swinging the other direction of suddenly it was okay to hate Muslims. That was always a thing in the culture, but it shifted.
And it was interesting. At one point they said like basically that kind of brought it, like it kind of okayed the vocalization of hate.
Yeah.
Of like a religion.
And yeah,
that was interesting because that's nearly the start of it all, isn't it?
In a way it is, but I also I remember the Oklahoma City bombing when I was still, what year was that? That was in the 90s. I was in like middle school or high school. I mean, at the time, that was the biggest terrorism event in like American history. Like, I think it was like the most Americans to die in a single event since Pearl Harbor. I don't know if that's true, but that might be true. In the US.
Yeah.
And but also 9/11 caused wars. We went to war with two countries because of 9/11.
Yep.
The Oklahoma City bombing happened and it was about one guy with a truck and a bomb. Not a whole society of people who want to bring down the government. And
well, this this rings true for like when you're talking about school shooters and like as when it's the white man going in to shoot up schools.
Yep.
Or the white boy or teenager.
Exactly.
It is like, this is like atrocious. This is like a mental health issue, blah, blah, blah. Luckily, someone else had a gun to shoot him. But when it's someone who's trans or when God forbid, community. It's someone who's black or who is not white, they are going to say, well, that entire community is to blame. Never once have I heard white men. Never once have I heard it's white people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like never. And it's bizarre to me. It's bizarre because it's not bizarre. Like I get it because they will not take accountability, which is what we saw here. It's just this whole, it's seeping everywhere. It's seeping at the moment that as we're recording this podcast, obviously this will come out a little bit later, but like I see it in Ireland. I see the tricolour, which has always been a representation of Ireland's freedom from England and the Republic of Ireland's freedom from England after being under their thumb for so very long. And that fight, and it's always been Céad Míle Fáilte, which means like 100,000 welcomes. We are a welcoming society. It's always been our tagline. And now the tricolour has been taken and has been walked around streets in Ireland with signs saying Ireland is full.
That was what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you about what's kind of going on in Ireland along these lines. That's interesting to hear.
Well, that's the start. Then we've got racist attacks on where asylum seekers are being housed right now. Like if they're hotels or community centres, you've like had arson attacks. You've got racist attacks on like people who are working in hospitals, like nurses, doctors. You've got racist attacks on delivery drivers all throughout Ireland, and it's just increasing. It's getting more and more common. And what it seems to be, which is shocking to me, not the arson attacks, like that was like a group of like older people as well as like younger people, but a lot of the attacks that we're hearing about seem to be teenage boys. And that's terrifying. It's the Andrew Tate mentality. It's that feckin' idea that the machoism comes from attack, it comes from violence, and it's such bullshit. Like the Irish people right now have a right to be pissed off. They have a right to be pissed off at the government because the government have left them hanging, because they don't have enough housing, they don't have enough supports, they don't have enough mental health care services. The wait lists are insane for anything in Ireland right now. People who have children who have additional needs cannot get a spot in school right now. And everyone's anger. And people, like, there's a really solid social welfare system in Ireland, and people who are saying basically, well, these immigrants are taking from us because they're taking our social welfare. And it's this lack of accountability. Like, I deserve, you do not. I deserve, you do not. It's such bullshit. Like, the anger and the energy needs to go to the government and the people who need to change things. It doesn't need to go against other people. Sorry. Side note of a rant there. It does my nut in. It does my nut in so much.
Well, and that actually, I mean, that helps sort of clarify my brain. Part of what is I find so exhausting about this is I think when I was younger, there was a long period where I felt like I had a lot of hope about how over time kind of the legacy of racist beliefs and kind of fear of the other and fear of like the multiculturalism and diversity in America would fade because we're becoming an increasingly diverse society, right? Like the more interracial marriage was legalized in 1972 in America. And you have more and more interracial couples. You have more and more babies born that are not just white. And I naively thought that that mentality would lead to people being like, oh, there's nothing to fear here. We are stronger together. We are better for our diversity. And I'm saying
but we're
that was
also
naive.
just fucking people. Like, sorry, I know that's a naive thing to say. It does my fucking nut in. It does
But also,
my nut
but-
in.
but-
It doesn't make
but-
any sense.
For a couple hundred years, and I know America's a lot younger than Ireland, but for the entire history of our country, it was like, okay, the only person that can lead our country is a white man. And then Obama gets elected. And I think for a lot of us who care about these causes, I know I have the poster right behind me. It's been there the whole time. That's from his acceptance speech in Denver in 2008, where he accepted the nomination. I was there in that crowd, watched him give that speech. And it was one of the most amazing moments. And I think we thought, so many people that I talked to, so many people who worked on causes like that in the years and years before that thought, this will never happen. That is impossible. America will never elect someone like him. And then they did.
I know.
And then they did it again. And I think we all thought for those 8 years, like, maybe we are actually making progress. Maybe we actually are going to do the work as a society. Maybe we are actually growing and maturing as a society. And that it turns out, it swings back and forth, right? It's a pendulum. And it's swinging real hard back the other way for the last 10 years or so. And yeah, these last 10 years have been really hard and easier for me. Like, I get it. Like, I am not afraid of ICE banging down my door, right? Like, I have a level of privilege.
No, but you also are a father of 2 boys that have had to grow up throughout this.
Yeah.
Like, if you're saying the last 10 years and you see this, like, growing in fear, and I don't know, and I hope you don't mind me saying it, but, like, I'm sure you've had conversations with both your sons about similar vein to things about like this. And I'm sure if you haven't, like, it's there for them, like, they see it, they're absorbing it. And you can't diminish that side of it. You don't have to be the worst impacted to be allowed to say this is fucking hard.
Yeah, I just, like, I want to acknowledge that I can go out in the world and I want to acknowledge my privilege, I guess, but also say,
I feel like you've done that about 17 times today.
Okay, thank you for calling that out. But
I do. I want to say, like, yes, you're a white man, and I sometimes slag you about that. And I've said it before, you know, during this, the most infuriating part for me was this, like, young white men, poor little young white guy who was 27 and didn't know right from wrong. Didn't know that people are human because they are people, and it's the inside that matters in a person, not the outside. But, like, be in a relationship with her, that's fine. But anyway, that's another side to it that I'm just like, what the fuck's your problem? I just want to acknowledge you don't have to say any more times that you're acknowledging your privilege.
Okay. I'll let
we
that
get
I'll,
it.
Yeah. All right.
But this is frustrating. And I think, like, sure, you so more than me have like an insight into so much of this, because as you said, for 25 years, you've been like speaking about it. You've been involved in some shape or form in discussions or like going to debates or whatever, protests or whatever it is. And you have 2 boys that you're raising and that you're trying to support through it, and a wife you're trying to support through it. So like you've more to say on this than I do. What I can say on this is that when I heard a question on these calls, all the snippets of like, okay, well, like, what's your breakdown of your race? And people were like, oh, well, I'm 90% white, but then I've also got like this Latin blood, but it's not like Spanish speaking Latin. It's like the Portuguese side. I was like, fucking hell. And then it's like, oh yeah, did you hear? Like, that guy's uncomfortable a little bit about like even the thought of like, you know, injuring a black person. Like, can you imagine what it would be like if he actually did it? I'm just like it's disgusting. It's so disgusting to hear grown men talk about this as if this is normal fucking conversation. This is not normal. This is not normal, and it's not okay. And it's this okaying attitude that is so disgusting. And I think for me, what this podcast did is it just laid it out there. It didn't need to pause and be like, how not okay is that? It just gave it to us and knew the listeners are going to sit there with that feeling.
I agree with that. I think it also, I don't know, I have a lot of feelings about this, I guess, more than I thought I would have. But yeah.
You expected more from it?
No. I mean,
I wanted more from it?
I expected something different from it. We've talked about that. We don't have to keep beating that. But I think in some ways, it also feels like a reminder of how little has been accomplished. The other thing
honestly,
I want to say,
I don't want to drag you down anymore. For me, it was a reminder of how good it was back in 2021 and how badly we've fallen now.
But, yeah, sure. The other thing I wanted to mention was, you know, we mostly deal with murder and scams and, you know, things like that. In this podcast, I was actually really appreciative how it brought this up of like, what's the crime here? Like, what are they actually doing that's illegal? And there aren't maybe enough laws about some of these things. And I think, you know, when we talk about, let's use murder, for example, when we talk about a murder case and it's like, okay, murder is illegal. Murder has been illegal since Cain and Abel, basically. And we all can agree on that.
Did you just use like a biblical reference to tell us how long murder's been illegal for?
I did.
Okay.
It's a metaphor.
That was, okay. Is it? Right. I'll trust you on that one.
Anyway. And I think it's like, in a way, the fact that this is in such a gray area. And I had points where I was listening to this where I was thinking, well, yeah, I think what they're doing is reprehensible, but is it illegal? Like, it should be, but I don't think it is. Like, they're doing a lot of things that aren't illegal. And it's kind of frustrating how gray of an area that is.
Is hate talk not illegal here?
Yeah, but there's also like, it's complicated. Like, there's the sort of like First Amendment free speech, but it doesn't protect hate speech. So no, hate speech is not protected. So,
because we have like the law on hate speech and hate crime, and like in Irish law, hate speech is any communication that is made in public with the intention or likelihood of being threatening or abusive and likely to stir up hatred against people because of their race, colour, nationality, religion, ethnic or national origin, membership of the traveller community, and sexual orientation, which I think we brought up before.
Yes, we did. We did.
This came into pass in 1989. Now, it was extended, I think sexual orientation was added to it in like very recent years from memory.
Question I had for you. So we listened to this White Hot Hate podcast from the CBC. This was season 1. There's a season 2. Which I don't know if you looked at it, but it's about an FBI agent who goes deep undercover with biker gangs, racist biker gangs.
Sons of Anarchy style.
I think so. Would you listen to that? Not today.
Not tomorrow. Not today. I think there's a time that I'll listen to most true crime podcasts. I think what's hard at the moment with this is that it's
too real.
It's so real. Yeah. This isn't like, oh my God, I can't believe that's happening in a small corner of a state that I don't live in. This is happening everywhere. It's on TV. It's all over every social media. It's everywhere.
I like to think that your life's work is to listen to every true crime podcast.
I'm on it. We're trying it.
That'll be on your
You're
gravestone.
helping me. Come here. I do have some reviews. Yeah, a couple.
Yeah, let's hear it.
White Hot Hate, an excellent investigation into the rise of neo-Nazi groups in Canada, done by blah, 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 blah. Someone is basically saying, I feel like this is especially relevant today with groups popping up in Alberta that represent Nazi symbols, blah, 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 blah. I think everyone in Alberta should listen to it, which I thought was interesting. So that was the start of the thread. And then someone responds, someone called Cor Asuna Schnee. Okay, I love this podcast and I just re-listened to it. It is absolutely relevant to everything that's going on right now. Can I raise you one? And then 4 other podcasts that are on a similar vein that I'm like, oh my God, there's so many podcasts because
where are those?
There's so much hate. Yeah. Do you want to hear them?
Sure.
Will Be Wild from Pineapple Street Studios. We listened to a Pineapple Street Studios one before. I can't remember.
Hysteria was.
Oh.
Yeah. They just shut down,
actually.
You're right.
Oh.
I think so.
It did happen here from Aaron Yankee, I'm not sure. The Flamethrowers from CBC, and 4 and 5 Behind the Insurrections and Behind the Police from Cool Zone Media. There are more related to these, but you can find them all wherever you get your podcasts. And then The Coming Storm from BBC was noted, and Empire City, all about NYPD, is pretty good. So then I have another response to this main thread from Bo Hunk from SK. All right, Bo Hunk. My skin crawled when that dip shit, it's like the at for the I on dipshit, but anyway, neo-Nazi attended was in front of an anti-mask event parade in Calgary. Sadly, Alberta, Sask and rural BC have always had xenophobes in the population. This is stunningly problematic, as most of these idiots are 2nd or 3rd generation Canadian. We're seeding and harvesting outrage right now as a means of generating hits. And then we have Hopfit 46. These young people are being raised on a steady diet of toxic masculinity on the internet. It names people that I won't name. And those are the ones that nudge them to be to the actual mask off Nazis. This is the only possible outcome.
That raises a good point that we didn't really talk about, and I don't want to talk about it at length, but just as a quick note, I think we've talked about this in other contexts before, but one of the things that maybe makes me most despondent about this is to hear about the people as young as 11 getting recruited, but I also recognize that this is the Facebook Mark Zuckerberg legacy, is to push people into extreme ideologies and to hate, because hate gets more clicks. You stay on the feed longer, and fuck that guy.
Anyway, can we just pause for a moment and laugh at the fact that this macho Patrick yoke of a man who's been put behind bars by the end of this podcast, after his sentencing, before his sentencing, when he's making his closing remarks, he quotes Michael frickin' Bublé. I'm like, buddy, where's your macho sense of self gone? I'm a big Michael Bublé fan. I'm okay with it, but talk about the complete opposite. And also it being I want to go home. I want to go home. It's what my kids say when they're wrecking my head. I want to go home.
That was the most Trump and his YMCA, Elton John, do you not know that these are gay anthems playlist? Such a lack of self-awareness.
But also did you is that what you were I have a great idea, I'm going to quote this guy? Why
Michael
aren't you
Bublé.
quoting
Yeah.
someone cooler. I don't know. Someone like more macho. It's just so funny.
Wait. Okay.
Even the fact that it's like, even if it was Michael Bublé, like, let's not be like, I want to go home. I want to go home, because you're like a child. Have some like poetic line from some song. There are so many songs, Jeff. There's songs about freedom fighters. If this is the line you're going with, quote one of them.
I'm going to say, off the top of my head, musical artists above Michael Bublé on that ranking of like, what was the word? What was the adjective you used? Like
macho.
I'm going to say Liza Minnelli. I'm going to say Lady Gaga.
Like everyone. Like Michael Bublé, if you're listening, like, we love you. You're great. But like
Neil Diamond. Would you recommend this to a friend?
I don't think this is in the vein of something my friends might be, the style that they would be into. So actual friends that I know listen to true crime, I'm not sure. But I think this was an interesting true crime podcast to listen to.
Okay.
This
is one I think this gets to my sort of anti-racism advocacy that, like, yes, I would, because I think everyone should always be paying attention to this type of thing and should be listening to more of it. And I think it is well done. So, yeah, was it for me personally? Maybe not the most, but I do think it was a very good podcast, and I have already told people about it. So.
Oh yeah, I've told a good few people about it, but more on the lines of, you know how the Daily's depressing? I have another podcast that's also depressing. But it's not from right now. It's from like 4 years ago. But the now of the story might be worse than it was 4 years ago. But here you go.
If you thought our conversation was depressing, let us know. Leave us a comment. We want to know what you thought of us. We also want you to rate us, especially if you thought we're worthy of 5 stars, because we think we are, and we hope you do too.
Indeed.
If you're on Spotify, Apple, wherever you are, leave us a comment, leave us a rating, and just like we like to tell everyone we run into on the street about the shows we're listening to, tell them about this show you're listening to right now. You're listening to it right now. Why don't you pull out your AirPod, find somebody, a stranger near you, and say, hey,
Jeff, stop being weird with these spread the word parts. That is not what we're asking people to do. We're not asking people to go up to random strangers and be like, listen to so much crime, so little time. That is not what I'm not advocating for that. I can't stand over that.
Okay, better strategy.
Share this show on Instagram or TikTok or wherever you get your podcast.
I'm going to take the note.
Have your socials.
We're a couple weeks away. We're getting pretty close to Halloween. If you're standing at your door, handing out candy to kids, every kid who comes up to the door, tell them, hey, let me tell you about this true crime podcast that I'm listening to.
Oh my God, don't listen to him. He's got terrible ideas.
I think these are
terrible ideas.
All ideas are good ideas in a brainstorm, Dee.
Or it's coming up to Halloween. Why don't you dress up as your favorite podcasters, Jeff and Dee? Sign up to our Patreon. We'll send you some merch and you can have your outfit ready to go. It's like the easiest, laziest Halloween costume. Get a mic, get a pair of headphones, be female or be male, and you've got your Jeff or Dee. Mustache for one of us. I think it's Jeff.
Next time, Dee, how about we listen to something completely different? I
mean, sure. Let's take a break from the horrors that you've put on me recently. Go on.
Let me remind you, first of all, that the last one was your pick. Do you remember where you were on August 31st, 1997? Or more accurately, September 1st, 1997, when you heard this news?
Is this Diana?
It is Princess Diana. We are going to listen
97.
to a podcast on Princess Diana.
Saturday morning. I remember exactly where I was, Jeff. And I was 9 and a half.
Where were you?
I woke up and my mum was in the room that she's never in. We call it the playroom. It's like the smaller room, looking at TV. And like she was just glued to it all day because she couldn't believe it. Big Lady Diana fan. Big Princess Diana fan. And I remember waking up and coming down. I think I had a camogie match maybe that day. I was probably getting ready for if it was a Saturday. I remember it was a Saturday or Sunday. It So we would have been back to school on the Monday.
Okay.
So it was a
Well,
weekday.
I wasn't sure
There
if
you
you
go.
were going to remember that.
You weren't sure that I'd remember, but there you go. That's where I was.
I am impressed. Okay, so back in the summer series, we listened to a podcast called You're Wrong About. We didn't have the best time with it, but it was the Matthew Shephard story, which was important that we covered. And when we were talking with one of our mutual friends and listeners, Ollie, about this, they said, hey, you know what I think you should cover is they did a 5-part series on Princess Diana back in the fall of 2020. So we're going to check that out. It's a 5-parter.
I'm really excited to listen to this.
I want to tell you the first episode description is, and this is, I'm quoting from the episode site. We start our new series with the story of a girl, a prince, and the society that convinced them that they liked each other. Digressions include camels, Beyonce, and the idiosyncrasies of British place names. Yeah, it's going to go on some tangents. Be ready for that.
What are we listening to?
It's called You're Wrong About. That's an ongoing series, but there's a 5-parter on Princess Diana from 2020.
Wow. I'm excited. I'm in.
That's on the next So Much Crime.
So little time. Oh my God, I'm so in. Send it to me immediately.
So Much Crime, So Little Time is a production of Mind Glove Media. The executive producer is Paxton Caloriso. Our associate producer is Blythe Ty. Our theme music was composed by Vyacheslav Starostin. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to this show on your podcast app. And don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and a review. Even better, tell your friends. To join the discussion, look for us on social media. Check out the show notes for all the links. Thanks for listening.